The first contact mishap. The Velari homeworld was unlike anything Captain Daniel Carter had ever seen. A world of tall silver trees, glowing rivers, and floating crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. It was a planet untouched by war. Its people advanced beyond anything humanity had imagined. And yet, as Daniel stood inside the Grand Diplomatic Hall, surrounded by alien dignitaries, he was focused on only one thing. The Velari didn't wear clothes. At all. The first meeting. Daniel had trained for this. He had spent months studying Velari customs, preparing for humanity's first official alliance talks with the species. But nowhere in the reports had it mentioned that they rejected clothing entirely. Across from him, Commander Liriana, the Velari leader, watched him with piercing silver eyes. Her skin shimmered under the soft blue light of the chamber. Her posture was regal, confident, and completely unbothered by the fact that she wore nothing but a ceremonial sash draped across one shoulder. Daniel kept his gaze locked on her face. He had faced rogue AI, space pirates, and black hole anomalies. But nothing had prepared him for this diplomatic challenge. The awkward moment. Liriana tilted her head. Human, why do you wear these restrictions? Daniel blinked. He took a slow breath. Be professional. Be diplomatic. Clothes are part of our culture. Liriana raised an eyebrow. But why? Daniel hesitated. How did one explain modesty to a species that had never needed it? It's a social norm. Humans wear clothes for protection, comfort, and privacy. Liriana's expression remained unreadable. Privacy? Are you hiding something? Daniel choked on air. What? No, it's just personal space. It's considered improper to be uncovered. The Velari officials murmured among themselves, clearly confused. Liriana leaned forward slightly. So, you are uncomfortable in your natural form. Daniel cleared his throat. No, it's just a human thing. Liriana's gaze studied him intensely. Strange. Do all humans share this discomfort? Yes. Liriana paused. Then, she tilted her head toward her guards. Very well. Remove his garments. Daniel's brain short-circuited. Wait. Diplomatic crisis. The Velari guards stepped forward, their expressions calm, their intentions clear. Please, human ambassador, your coverings are unnecessary. This is part of diplomatic harmony. Daniel took a step back. No. Hold on. I need these. The guards paused, confused. Liriana frowned. Human, if clothing is unnecessary for survival, why do you refuse? Daniel tried to think fast. This was a diplomatic nightmare. The Velari weren't trying to humiliate him. They genuinely didn't understand. He was about to cause an intergalactic incident over a pair of pants. It's a symbol. Liriana narrowed her eyes. A symbol of what? Daniel forced himself to stay calm. Respect. Among humans, clothing is a way to show respect and professionalism. The Velari whispered among themselves again. Liriana studied him carefully. So you believe showing your form would be disrespectful? Daniel hesitated. Yes. Liriana tapped her fingers against the table. She turned to the guards. Stand down. Daniel exhaled in relief. Crisis averted. Or so he thought. The real problem. Liriana studied Daniel closely. She seemed curious. You claim clothing is a symbol of respect, yet we see it as a barrier. Daniel's stomach tightened. A barrier. Liriana's silver eyes locked onto his. Velari communicate through bioelectric fields. Clothing disrupts those signals. Daniel's breath hitched. The Velari weren't just ignoring clothes. They couldn't tolerate them. To them, his uniform was a sign of dishonesty, of deception, of hiding something. Does your species hide itself because you fear being seen? Liriana asked softly. Daniel's mind raced. No, it's not about fear. Then what is it about? Daniel hesitated. How could he explain something that was so normal to humans, but alien to them? How could he bridge this cultural gap? The Velari officials watched him closely, waiting for an answer. And then, the room fell silent. A new voice spoke through the chamber speakers. Attention! The Velari High Council has made a decision. Daniel's chest tightened. Effective immediately, all clothed humans are forbidden from setting foot on Velari soil. His blood ran cold. The first human-Velari alliance was already crumbling over clothing. Cliffhanger. The ultimate test. Daniel turned to Liriana, his voice urgent. You can't be serious. This will destroy our alliance before it even starts. Liriana was silent for a long moment. Then she stepped forward, closer than before. Daniel could feel the heat radiating from her skin. If you wish to remain human, then remove your uniform. The room stilled. Daniel's pulse pounded. He was now faced with an impossible choice. Abandon the mission, break relations, and leave Velari space forever. Stay, but remove his uniform, violating every human standard of modesty. His mind raced for a third option. Then, Liriana's fingers brushed his sleeve. For a split second, Daniel felt something. A shock, an energy, a connection. Liriana's eyes widened in shock. What was that? Daniel didn't know, but something had just changed. And now, both of them wanted answers. A forbidden touch. The chamber was silent. The air between Daniel Carter and Commander Liriana felt charged, like a storm just before it broke. Liriana slowly withdrew her hand, staring at it as if she had touched fire. Daniel felt it too. Not just a static shock. Not just a coincidence. Something had happened the moment she touched him. Something neither species could explain. The Velari's greatest secret. Liriana turned to her advisors, speaking in her native tongue. Her voice was sharp, urgent. The other Velari looked at her in shock. One of them whispered, "Impossible." Daniel frowned. "Okay, I'd really like to know what's happening now." Liriana's silver eyes snapped back to him. For the first time, there was uncertainty in them. "Human, what did you just do to me?" Daniel blinked. "Me? You touched me." She shook her head. "No, this was something else." Daniel crossed his arms. "So what, you guys don't experience static electricity?" Liriana hesitated. Then, in a low voice, she admitted, "Velari do not experience physical touch the way humans do." Daniel's stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" She exhaled. "Our bodies have never reacted to contact before. Not with each other. Not with any species. Until now." Daniel felt a cold realization creep over him. He had just done something that had never happened in Velari history, and the Velari were not okay with it. The crisis escalates. The doors to the chamber slammed open. A new figure entered, the Velari High Chancellor, an elder with glowing violet skin and an air of absolute authority. His gaze landed on Daniel, and it was not friendly. "Human, step away from Commander Liriana. Now." Daniel froze. Liriana turned sharply. "Chancellor, wait. I need to." The elder raised a hand, cutting her off. His voice was calm. Too calm. "You have broken a sacred law." Daniel's stomach dropped. "What law?" The Chancellor's eyes glowed with warning. "No Velari has ever physically reacted to another being. Your presence has changed that." He took a step forward. "And that is unacceptable. A race against time." Liriana stood her ground. "Chancellor, we do not yet understand what happened. We must investigate before making rash decisions." The elder's expression remained stone cold. "There is nothing to investigate." He turned to his guards. "The human will be taken into custody immediately." Daniel felt his pulse spike. "Whoa, Hold on. Custody. I didn't do anything. Liriana stepped in front of him. This is wrong. He is an ambassador. He is under my protection. The Chancellor's eyes hardened. Then you defy the High Council. The room tensed. Daniel saw it in Liriana's face. This moment would decide everything. She had a choice. Obey her people. Let them take him away. Defy the Council. Protect the human who had changed everything. Liriana's fists clenched, and she made her choice. The forbidden escape. Liriana moved first. Faster than the guards could react, she grabbed Daniel's wrist and pulled him back. A single command rang through the room. Run. Daniel didn't hesitate. Yeah, okay, running sounds good. They burst through the chamber doors, sprinting down the silver halls. Alarms blared. Guards pursued. Daniel glanced at Liriana as they ran. So, does this make me an intergalactic fugitive? She didn't even look at him. It does now. Daniel groaned. Fantastic. Cliffhanger. The awakening. The halls blurred as they ran. Daniel's heart pounded. And then, something shifted. He felt it in his bones. A strange warmth, an energy growing inside him. His vision flickered. For a second, he could see everything. Not just the halls. Not just the guards chasing them. He could feel Liriana's heartbeat. He could sense every life form in the building. Daniel stumbled. His entire body burned with a strange, electric sensation. Liriana, something's wrong. She turned, eyes widening. No, human. Something's waking up. Daniel's vision blurred to white. The last thing he heard was the Chancellor's voice, echoing through the speakers. Capture the human alive. He must not leave this planet. And then, everything went dark. The awakening. The world shattered into white. For a moment, Daniel Carter felt weightless. There was no sound, no gravity, no pain, just energy. It pulsed through his veins, his bones, his mind, an overwhelming force that was not his own. And then, he woke up, lost in the unknown. Daniel gasped for air, his chest burning. His vision blurred, but he could tell. He was no longer in the palace. The ground beneath him was soft, like living crystal. Above him, a dark sky pulsed with blue light, like a nebula frozen in time. He turned his head. Liriana was there, but she wasn't moving. Liriana. Daniel stumbled to her side, shaking her gently. Her silver skin was glowing faintly, her breathing slow but steady. He looked around. This place was wrong. This was not the Velari city. This was not Earth. Where the hell are we? Then, a whisper. You were never meant to exist. Daniel froze. The voice wasn't his. And it wasn't Liriana's. The forgotten place. Liriana stirred, her silver eyes flickering open. She sat up quickly, scanning the strange landscape. Daniel saw it in her face, pure confusion. This place shouldn't be real. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Liriana ran a hand over the crystalline ground, her fingers trembling slightly. This is the realm of the first, the birthplace of the Velari. Daniel frowned. Okay, and why is that bad? Liriana exhaled. Because it was destroyed 10,000 years ago. Daniel's pulse spiked. So you're saying we're standing in a place that doesn't exist? Liriana nodded slowly. Yes, and I don't know how we got here. Daniel's stomach tightened. And then, the voice returned. Because you are an anomaly. The entity that watches. Daniel turned sharply. A figure stood in the distance. It wasn't Velari. It wasn't human. It was something else. Its form shifted constantly, made of light and shadow. A being that had no fixed shape, only presence. Daniel's throat went dry. Who are you? The entity tilted its head. We are the ones who created the Velari. And you, human, were never supposed to touch them. Liriana tensed beside him. Impossible. The ancients disappeared eons ago. The entity's voice was calm, absolute. No, we did not disappear. We have been waiting. Daniel clenched his fists. Waiting for what? The entity's form rippled. For you. The truth about the Velari. Liriana stood quickly, her breath unsteady. This is a trick. The ancients are gone. The entity's voice did not waver. You believe what you were taught. But the truth was never given to your people. Liriana's fists clenched. Then tell me. The entity paused. Then it lifted a hand, and the world around them shifted. Suddenly, they weren't standing on crystal anymore. They were in the past, a memory not meant to be seen. Daniel and Liriana stood frozen as the vision played out. A vast city, Velari, but different. Golden spires, endless fields of light, millions of beings walking in harmony. The first Velari civilization. And then, chaos. A great war. Not with humans, not with another species. With themselves. Velari against Velari. Cities falling. Entire bloodlines erased. And at the center of it all, a single event. A Velari reaching out and touching another. A single act that sent shockwaves through their evolution. Their bodies changed. Their minds connected in ways they had never understood. And their civilization collapsed. The entity's voice was soft, but heavy with meaning. Physical contact among Velari was once normal. But then we discovered something dangerous. It creates a bond that cannot be controlled. Liriana's face drained of color. Daniel's heart pounded. So that's why you don't touch each other. The entity turned to him. And that is why you, human, are dangerous. Because your touch has awakened something we sealed away. Daniel staggered back. His mind raced. Liriana's people had been engineered to avoid contact. Their history had been erased to prevent another collapse. And then, he had touched Liriana. And now, the past was repeating itself. The judgment. The entity raised a hand. A glowing symbol formed in the air. An ancient Velari glyph. Daniel felt his chest burn, the energy pulling at him. Liriana grabbed his arm. What are you doing to him? The entity's voice was calm, but final. The bond has already begun. It cannot be undone. And for that, he must be erased. The world rippled. A surge of pure energy shot toward Daniel. He had no time to react, no time to think. And then, Liriana threw herself in front of him. The energy struck her instead. Her body glowed violently, her form collapsing to the ground. Daniel's blood ran cold. Liriana. The entity's voice was absolute. You have changed her, and now she will never be the same. Daniel knelt beside her, shaking. Her eyes fluttered open, and they were glowing like the stars themselves. Liriana gasped, clutching Daniel's wrist. Daniel, I can hear you. I can feel you. What did you do to me? The entity stepped back, its form flickering. You have already begun the next evolution of the Velari. And now, the entire galaxy will come for you. Daniel held Liriana tightly, his mind spinning. Then let them come. And the world around them collapsed into darkness. The galaxy declares war. The world collapsed into darkness. For a brief moment, Daniel Carter and Liriana floated in the void, untethered from reality itself. Then, light erupted. Daniel gasped, his body snapping back into existence. He landed hard on the cold metallic floor, pain shooting through his limbs. Liriana was beside him, still glowing faintly, her chest rising and falling with deep, uneven breaths. The air around them felt different. He looked up, and his stomach dropped. They were no longer in the ancient Velari realm. They were in a holding cell. Captured by the Velari High Council, the walls were smooth obsidian, pulsing with soft, golden energy. Daniel turned his head just in time to see a massive door slide open. A group of Velari officials entered, their expressions unreadable. At the center of them, Chancellor Vedris, leader of the Velari High Council, his silver eyes locked onto Daniel with cold fury. "You are a mistake." Daniel's jaw clenched. "Yeah, I get that a lot." Vedris stepped forward, his gaze flickering to Liriana. She was still unconscious, her body shifting in unnatural ways. Something inside her was changing, and the High Council knew it. "You have infected one of our own with your corruption." Daniel's fists tightened. "I didn't do anything to her." Vedris's gaze turned sharp. "Your very presence is a disease, human." The doors slammed shut behind him, and for the sake of the galaxy, it must be cured. The Valeri's ultimate decision. The room shifted, a massive hologram appearing in the air. A map of the entire known galaxy. Velari worlds, human colonies, allied empires. Vedris lifted a hand, and suddenly red markers appeared over every human-inhabited system. Daniel's breath caught. "What is this?" Vedris's voice was absolute. "The Velari cannot risk your kind spreading this anomaly. If this bond between our species is allowed to continue, it will break the balance of the universe." Daniel's stomach twisted. "You're talking about war." Vedris nodded. "Yes, the High Council has already sent word to our allies. The Galactic Order has been made. The human race will be purged." Liriana wakes up, and she's not the same. A sharp breath. Daniel turned just in time to see Liriana's eyes snap open. But something was wrong. Her silver eyes weren't silver anymore. They were gold. Glowing, shifting, like molten stars burning behind her irises. She sat up slowly, her fingers flexing against the floor. Daniel could feel her presence in his mind. Her heartbeat, her thoughts. They were connected now, fully and completely. "Daniel, I can hear you." Her voice echoed through his mind, even though her lips had barely moved. The High Council staggered back. One of the officials shouted in horror. "It has begun." Vedris's expression darkened. "Kill her." The guards raised their weapons. And Daniel snapped. The human who refused to be weak. The moment the weapons fired, Daniel moved. Before he even thought about it, his body reacted. His hand shot out, and the blasts froze midair. The room shook. The energy from the guards' weapons crackled in place, like time itself had stalled. Daniel felt it. The power running through him, the connection between him and Liriana. They weren't just bonded anymore. They were becoming something more. Something the Velari had tried to prevent for thousands of years. And now, it was too late. Daniel clenched his fists. The energy blasts reversed. They shot back toward the guards, throwing them across the room. The High Council stared in horror. Vedris stepped back. "This is impossible." Daniel exhaled. His voice was calm. "Absolute. You made a mistake. You thought you could control evolution. But now, we're the ones in control." Liriana rose to her feet, her golden eyes locked onto Vedris. "And we are not going to let you destroy humanity." Cliffhanger. The war for the future. The alarms in the chamber blared. A hologram appeared in the air, showing a live feed from orbit. The Velari fleet was mobilizing. Thousands of warships, preparing to wipe out every human colony. Daniel's jaw clenched. "We need to stop them." Liriana's hand tightened around his. Their bond was alive, pulsating between them. She looked at him, not as a Velari, not as an enemy, but as his equal. "Then let's change the galaxy." Daniel smirked. "I was hoping you'd say that." And in that moment, the future of both species was rewritten. The war for the future. The Velari fleet loomed over the skies of Earth. 1,000 warships, each one designed for planetary erasure, had entered attack formation. Their mission was clear: erase humanity, prevent the spread of the anomaly. Kill Daniel Carter and Liriana, and ensure that their kind never exists again. But they had made one critical mistake. They thought Daniel was still human. The awakening of a new species. Inside the Velari command ship, alarms blared. The High Council watched as their greatest fear unfolded before their eyes. Liriana and Daniel were no longer separate beings. They moved in perfect sync, their minds linked in ways no Velari had ever known. The guards hesitated, their weapons shaking. They are evolving. The High Chancellor slammed his fist against the control panel. We have waited 10,000 years to prevent this. They must be erased. But the problem, Daniel wasn't planning on dying today. The battle begins. Daniel and Liriana charge. The guards fired, but the shots never reached them. The moment the energy blasts left the weapons, they'd froze in midair. Daniel's golden eyes burned. Liriana raised her hand, and the shots reversed. In an instant, the guards were blasted back against the walls. How are they doing this? They aren't Velari anymore. They aren't human either. Daniel exhaled. For the first time, he understood. He could feel the energy in the room. He could hear the heartbeat of every living thing around him. This isn't just telepathy. This is something new. Liriana turned to him. We are something new. And the galaxy wasn't ready for it. Earth's last hope. Meanwhile, on Earth's military command station, chaos erupted. Admiral Ren Carter, Daniel's uncle, stood at the center of the war room. He watched as the Velari fleet blocked out the sun, their weapons locking onto Earth's cities. His officers turned to him. Sir, we're outgunned. Their ships are stronger, faster, more advanced. What are your orders? Ren clenched his fists. There was no scenario where they won this battle. Earth's fleet was powerful, but against the Velari, they were nothing. But Ren wasn't planning on going down without a fight. Send out every available warship. We hold the line. The officers hesitated. Sir, we won't survive. Ren's gaze was like steel. Then we make them remember us. The impossible power. Back on the Velari command ship, Daniel's entire body pulsed with energy. He could feel the bond inside him and Liriana growing. Their thoughts weren't just linked anymore. They were one. Liriana, do you feel that? She nodded, her golden eyes wide. Yes, and it's getting stronger. Daniel exhaled. Let's see what happens if we stop holding back. Liriana smirked. I was hoping you'd say that. They lifted their hands, and the entire Velari ship trembled. The power they couldn't predict. The High Chancellor staggered back. The air crackled. The ship's systems failed. The entire fleet felt it, a pulse of raw power radiating from a single point. What are they doing? The answer came instantly. Daniel and Liriana disappeared from sight. And then, they reappeared inside the Velari fleet. Not in a ship, not in an escape pod. They had willed themselves through space itself. Daniel clenched his fists. I think we just learned how to teleport. The Velari warships shook violently. Liriana exhaled. No, we just learned how to take control. Cliffhanger. The end of the old era. The Velari fleet was no longer responding to their pilots. The High Chancellor screamed into the comms. Fire. Fire every thing. But nothing happened. The warships wouldn't obey. Daniel and Liriana stood on the bridge of the largest warship, their hands glowing with golden energy. They weren't just linked anymore. They were rewriting reality. Daniel turned to Liriana. Ready to end this? She nodded. And together, they reached out, and the Velari fleet vanished. Not destroyed. Not disabled. Simply gone. Every warship, every fighter, erased from the battlefield. Leaving only silence, the birth of the unstoppable. The Velari fleet was gone. Not destroyed. Not disabled. Just erased. Billions of lives, countless warships, an entire civilization's might, wiped from existence in an instant. And Daniel Carter had done it without lifting a single weapon. The universe trembles. Across the galaxy, broadcasts went silent. Sensors malfunctioned. Governments panicked. Because one undeniable truth had just been revealed to the universe. Two beings now existed who could control reality itself. One was human. One was Velari. But neither were normal anymore. They were something new. And the galaxy had never feared anything more. The Council's final move. Far from Earth, in a darkened chamber beyond the edges of known space, a meeting was taking place. Not just the remnants of the Velari High Council, not just human leaders from Earth, but every major power in the galaxy, united by one common fear. The hybrids are a threat. They are beyond control. And if we do not destroy them now, there will be no future for any of us. A cold silence filled the room. Then, the final order was given. Prepare the Omega Protocol. And the fate of Daniel and Liriana was sealed. Earth turns against them. Daniel staggered, gripping the railing of a balcony overlooking Earth's capital. His body hummed with raw energy, his heartbeat echoing through his own mind. Liriana stood beside him, her golden eyes glowing softly, scanning the skies. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. They didn't need to. They could hear each other's thoughts now. Daniel exhaled. They're afraid of us. Liriana nodded. And they're right to be. Daniel clenched his fists. We didn't want this. Liriana turned to him. It doesn't matter. Because deep in their bones, they could feel it coming. The end was near. The fall of the old era. It began with a low hum in the sky, a ripple of energy that sent shivers down the spines of every living being on Earth. Daniel looked up. His breath caught. Above them, Earth's own fleet had mobilized. Weapons charge. Missiles locked on. A message echoed through the air. Daniel Carter and Liriana of Velari. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Liriana's face darkened. They won't let us live. Daniel already knew. Because this wasn't a negotiation. It was an execution. The Omega Protocol. Far above the planet, in the heart of Earth's military command station, Admiral Ren Carter, Daniel's uncle, stood in silence. His hand shook as he watched the fleet preparing to fire. An officer turned to him. Sir, it's your call. Ren closed his eyes. They're not human anymore. If we don't stop them now, no one ever will. His heart ached. But his duty was clear. Fire. The hybrid's wrath. The first strike came from orbit. A beam of pure kinetic energy, designed to wipe out entire cities in a single blast. It ripped through the clouds, heading straight for Daniel and Liriana. Daniel didn't move. He didn't need to. Liriana raised her hand. The beam stopped midair. The energy crackled, twisted, turned, and then it reversed. Faster than light, the attack flashed backward, striking the very ship that fired it. A massive explosion lit up the sky. The war had begun. The final transformation. Daniel and Liriana were no longer separate beings. Their power had fused into something else, a force beyond human understanding, beyond Velari control. They floated into the air, their bodies wrapped in golden light. Daniel looked at the fleet above them. He could feel the fear radiating from them. They think they can kill us. Liriana exhaled. Then let them try. And with a single thought, the sky tore apart. Cliffhanger. The new gods. Across the galaxy, something shifted. The very fabric of space trembled as Daniel and Liriana reached their final state. No longer human. No longer Velari. Something beyond both. The last message that echoed across the stars was not a declaration of war. It was a warning. They have ascended. And now, the universe is theirs to reshape. The old era had ended. The new had begun. And Daniel Carter, He was no longer asking for peace. He was taking the future by force. The gods awaken. The sky shattered. Reality itself cracked apart as Daniel Carter and Liriana ascended beyond their mortal limits. They were no longer human. They were no longer Velari. They were something new, and the universe trembled in their presence. Because for the first time in millennia, the architects had awakened, the true rulers of reality. Across the void of space, something stirred. Not ships, not fleets, not civilizations, but the original creators of the universe. They had no names, no forms. They were simply known as the architects. And for eons, they had watched in silence. Until now. Until Daniel and Liriana became something even they did not predict. A ripple of energy spread across existence. Every species, every empire, every ruler felt it at once. A single message echoed through the stars. The cycle has been broken. The mortals have taken what is not theirs. They must be undone. And for the first time since the birth of time, the architects descended. The final battle begins. Daniel and Liriana stood above Earth, floating in the void. Below them, the planet burned. Humanity had turned on them. The Velari had tried to erase them. And now, the true gods of the universe had arrived to erase them both. Daniel clenched his fists. His body no longer felt human. He could see the threads of existence. He could hear the hum of the universe itself. And he could feel the architects approaching. Liriana exhaled, her golden eyes burning like suns. We weren't supposed to exist. Daniel smirked. Yeah, well, we do. The void rippled. The architects arrived. The power of the old gods. They did not speak. They did not warn. They acted. Reality itself bent as the architects stretched their hands toward Daniel and Liriana. Time froze. Stars collapsed. Planets ceased to exist. The entire fabric of existence began to unravel. And for the first time, Daniel felt fear. Because these beings weren't here to fight. They were here to rewrite, to erase the mistake, to remove him and Liriana from history itself. You have broken the cycle. You will be unmade. The architects raised their hands, and the universe itself moved to erase them. The last stand of mortals. Daniel and Liriana stood their ground, because if the architects thought they could erase them so easily, then they had underestimated what it meant to be human. Liriana's voice was steady. We didn't ask for this, but we're not going to just disappear. Daniel's golden energy burned brighter. Yeah, we like existing. And then, they struck first. The battle beyond reality. No weapons, no armies, just pure power. Daniel and Liriana surged forward, their very presence warping existence itself. They weren't fighting in space. They were fighting within the fabric of reality. Planets were created and destroyed with every move. Stars burned out and reignited in seconds. Entire timelines collapsed and rebuilt themselves. It wasn't a war. It was a battle for the soul of the universe. And for the first time in history, the architects were struggling. Because Daniel and Liriana weren't just fighting them. They were rewriting the rules. The ultimate choice. The battle raged for what felt like eternity. And then, Liriana's voice echoed through Daniel's mind. We can't beat them like this. Daniel gritted his teeth. Then what do we do? She looked at him, her golden eyes full of something beyond power. We don't fight the architects. We become something even they can't control. Daniel felt it. The answer had been in front of them all along. They had spent so long defending their existence. Now, it was time to transcend it. Daniel reached for Liriana's hand. Their fingers touched, and the entire universe collapsed into light. Cliffhanger. The birth of a new reality. The architects staggered back. For the first time in history, they were afraid. Because Daniel and Liriana weren't fighting to survive anymore. They were creating something new, something that had never existed before. A reality without gods, a universe without limits, a place where beings could evolve freely, without cycles or control. You cannot do this. You will unmake the very laws of existence. Daniel smirked. Yeah, that's the point. The light exploded. The galaxy as it had been was no more. A new era had begun, and Daniel Carter and Liriana were its architects now. The end